Hello, and thank you so much for checking out. Allow me to introduce. My guest today is the executive producer and host of New Rockstars, the premier news source for the diehard fans of, and I quote, what the internet cares about right now. Oh, and it also has 3.8 million YouTube subscribers with over a billion views. And he has a new project launching very soon, which we will dive into. I feel like I've known him for years, but have never met before. It's Erik Voss. Erik, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Michael. So good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
I'm excited to get into your journey and kind of the moments and the reasons that led you to where you are now. I guess we'll start relatively early. Growing up, where did you grow up? What were your interests? What were your passions? Um, we'll start with that.
I grew up in Florida, northern Florida, Jacksonville. I was kind of a military brat. My dad was in the Navy, and we were moving around up and down the East Coast in my early years. But luckily, my dad retired when I was like 6 or 7. So I'm the youngest of five. So my older siblings all had a very different upbringing than I did. I kind of had I had my dad's like retirement life, and when he moved on to a different career. But actually, my family and I have always kind of used cinema and movies as a way to kind of connect with each other, or at least that's the way I connect with them. I don't know if they all see movies the same way I do. But yeah, I was always just a kid who, because I was the youngest of the family and everyone else was older and could do other stuff or felt like going outside, I would just kind of curl up in front of the TV. And that was the lens through which I would see the world. It's always been the way that I am able to kind of connect with people and understand complex notions and emotions. But yeah, I mean, my one of my earliest memories is like my dad's favorite movie is Jaws, and because he was in the Navy, he would often deploy a lot, especially before I can remember. But my older siblings all have these memories of my dad being gone for like 8 months, 10 months, and so he would always try to put on Jaws for me as a kid. And even as a kid, I could recognize that it was a great movie, but to me, it was just like a pretty simple man versus beast tale. And like, I could never really understand what my dad's connection with it was. But like, I knew that he loved it, and that was something he and I still share to this day. But then as I rewatched and rewatched and rewatched, I realized rewatching a movie a second time, I enjoy more than watching it the first time. Weirdly, I was the only person I'd ever met that was like that. And since then, I've met a ton of people who are like that. But I realized that there's like a specific scene halfway through the movie where Chief Brody gets like yelled at by the mom of the kid, the Alex Kittner kid who dies, and then he feels like I have blood on my hands. This was my fault. I should have done more to argue with the mayor to shut down the beach. So he's sitting at his dinner table drinking wine, and he feels like he feels awful, and then he's just doing this, and he looks over and his son is next to him doing the same thing, just mirroring him. And that was like something that like either Spielberg did with his dad, or like someone on crew said, oh, my son does that to me all the time, it always cheers me up. And I realized in that moment, like the second or third time I watched it, that is why my dad loved it. I don't know if it's my dad's favorite movie, but it's his favorite movie to watch with me. And it's this little moment of that's what activates Brody in the movie is his parental need to defend his family. He is terrified that something like that's going to happen to one of his sons, and that's what motivates this guy to resist his lifelong fear of the ocean, fear of water, to go fight the beast. And specifically, I realized, oh, that is my dad's motivation. Like, my dad's never been afraid of water, but like to him, that is why he was willing to get on these boats and go deploy for 8 or 10 months to be away from his family. In his mind, this is how he best provides for his family, and that justifies it to him. So it all kind of like synced in my head, and that's now how I look at every movie. I'm trying to find like what is the deeper little secret there.
It's fascinating how many deeper meanings films have and how many people can kind of relate to them. But so I want to move on a bit. You stayed in the Sunshine State. You attended the University of Florida, and I promise I won't bring up the fact that I'm a University of Miami fan. But what was your degree in Gainesville? Was it in the media, entertainment, arts field? Did you kind of have any idea going into college of what you wanted to do?
I didn't really have any idea. I thought at one point I wanted to be a lawyer, and in fact, like I started to prep for the LSAT the summer before my senior year. I interned with the Jacksonville State Attorney's Office, so my major was political science, and then I switched to journalism because UF is known for having a pretty good journalism school, and I wanted to learn how to write and work with these great professors who have like mentored Pulitzer winners and things like that. So, but really, my main concentration at UF, and it's how I met a lot of the people who I work with at New Rockstars, was through an improv group. And through that improv group, we were making a lot of short films and doing a lot of production because at the University of Florida, the journalism college has like a telecom department where if anybody is a major at that telecom department, if you take like a few different classes, you have access, like open access to camera equipment and lighting equipment. So half of our club were part of that program, and we would just like use that to go shoot our stuff. So we got really aggressive and really busy with like doing video production and that sort of thing. And it wasn't until my senior year, and I was taking those pre-LSAT courses, and I was just like, I was looking around at these other kids who were going to law school, and they were like so aggressive about wanting to put people in jail, and I was like, that's not for me. I don't want to. One of our jobs, we had to like track down people who had written bad checks and like threaten them with bench warrants if they didn't come back and pay up what they had done like 10 years ago. And I was like, can't we just let this slide? It's only $75. They probably needed it for something important. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just didn't have the aggressive spirit. And then a lot of my friends were moving out to Los Angeles, and that's how I ended up on the West Coast.
So once you got out to Los Angeles, was that something then you said, okay, I kind of want to get into the entertainment, improv scene? Is that the reason why you moved out there?
Yeah, yeah. My goal was to be a screenwriter or staff writer on a TV show, or just be like a live comedian, which I still do a lot of improv now. I'm in San Francisco now and I'm performing here. But yeah, for years I got involved with a couple different theaters in Los Angeles. The UCB theater at the time, there was a theater called the IO theater that is based out of Chicago, but they had an LA location. I did stuff at the Ground Lanes. And then I was just working any production jobs I could just to kind of pay the rent. I worked on like a couple different TV shows and production. I worked on a news show, and that kind of helped me. It gave me like a really good, well-rounded experience of how like production works, what call sheets are, how like production reports go out, how like the business works in general, what it's like to be on a set, what a gaffer does, what a best boy does, all that stuff. So yeah, and at that time I was also writing for what is now Vulture, but it at the time it was called Splitsider, and it was like a comedy news outlet. So I was like reviewing Saturday Night Live and interviewing different comedians and showrunners. So I was getting like a lot of different experience in a lot of different fields.
Now, you're known for being the face of New Rockstars, but I kind of want to know how you ended up there. How'd you get in the door? How did it all get started for you at New Rockstars?
For me, I started in roughly 2015. In the early years, New Rockstars wasn't so much of a YouTube channel. It was like a website that would just kind of cover whatever trending YouTube related news is out there. There'd be like interviews with Tyler Oakley and Shane Dawson, and what's Phil DeFranco doing to launch his new thing from SourceFed. You know, there was like a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I was brought in. I initially actually did a screen test in February 2015 for a news show that they were launching called Hashtag News, which is just going to be a short form 3 to 5 minute news recap video that would come out every day. I did a screen test for it. I thought I did okay. I didn't get the gig, and all the people who did get the gig were like friends of mine who I had recommended for the job, who were just slightly handsomer than I was, and just had slightly more telegenic than I was. Which I understood. I didn't move out to LA to be someone on camera, which is weird because my job is pretty much all on camera now. I just went out there to be a writer. And that's luckily I was able to get brought back to do more writing work for the channel. I was starting to write a lot of these videos just because like that's something I've always been good at, just writing on deadline, not judging myself and just getting it out there and quickly researching, trying to find the right answers quickly and as thoroughly as possible. And then I wrote one video. One of these hashtag news videos just happened to be an analysis of, I think the trailer at the time was the Fast and Furious 7 movie, Furious 7, and that was the one where Paul Walker had just passed away during production. So it was one of the first high-profile times that they were using VFX face-swapping technology, and it was still pretty new at the time. Now they're doing it left and right. But at the time, like people were like, "How the hell are they going to do this?" So I did a video explaining the technology of it, and other times it's been used, times it hasn't been used. And that video was like one of the first viral videos for New Rockstars YouTube channel. At that point, the channel just decided to shift to pretty much exclusively covering popular movies and TV shows. And then by the end of 2015, going into 2016, they brought me in like part time, couple days a week, with my goal to just be writing 1 or 2 videos a week. That no one ever even read my scripts, so I was just like writing videos, and I was like, is this still a company at this point? And then eventually, I think it was season 6 of Game of Thrones, maybe season 5 of Game of Thrones. The channel really, really wanted to cover those. So I ended up filling in and just becoming the main on-screen host from there forward. And at that point, I just kind of, everything kind of fell on my lap to produce all the content and write all the content, decide what videos we were making from there forward. And our team stayed pretty small for years and years. But as we didn't really start to blow up until like, I don't know, 2021 in terms of our staffing. We were able to stay kind of small and nimble for those years.
Well, I love how you represent the millions of fans out there who aren't ashamed to be loudly passionate about movies and shows. You know, those who can talk about the tiniest details for hours with so much joy. It's fantastic. When you're sitting down to write these scripts for videos or pitching ideas, or what are some of the parts of your creative process? How do you decide what fans in the audience are interested in?
A lot of it at this point is just kind of listening to my instinct and my gut. We do some kind of like analytic research, but at this point, I wait for the questions to come to me. I try to have that little voice that exists as a fan in the back of my head. What are my biggest questions? Every time I watch anything, even if it's just something for fun with my wife, I drive her crazy because I'll just be like afterwards, okay, what were your questions coming out of that? Like what did the movie intentionally leave vague for us to kind of fill in the blanks on? Or what did the movie really not do a good enough job satisfying an answer on? Because to me, those are the questions that drive me. Usually the answer to those questions is something that's more interesting and makes you appreciate the filmmaking process more than just kind of writing it off as a plot hole. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, they actually had to remove a scene, not just for length, but because like they had to reshoot it and the actor wasn't there anymore. And then I just love how the sausage gets made because it makes you appreciate how hard it is to make something. So that's often how I decide like what the big news is. It just kind of presents itself to me. We really try to focus on the news and the topics that people specifically on YouTube care most about. And right now, those are like the big genre franchises: Marvel and Star Wars, the DC universe, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon universe. And right now, it's like The Last of Us, which is a show I'm really digging.
Yeah, that's something I need to get into. I know that's New Rockstar's latest video. As of now, it's in my playlist. We've seen so many different formats on the channel, whether it's trailer breakdowns and reactions, Easter egg videos, full recaps, so much more. What are your favorite ones to write and produce? Is there a certain format that you enjoy the most?
Yeah, and it's a bummer because my favorite type of format to do is the hardest one to do, which is just like the most analytical breakdown of something that isn't necessarily the most popular movie right this second. I think right before COVID in early 2020, we had kind of a rainy day week, and we just kind of sampled our viewers, say, hey, if you wanted us to cover something that isn't like a major news, maybe one of the Oscar nominated movies this year, which would you do? And they voted on Knives Out. And I loved making that video so freaking much because I was able to like just kind of unplug my brain from other types of genre franchises and cinematic universes and just focus on one singular movie and how it sets up itself and how it pays off itself, the deeper meaning of it, how every specific Easter egg and choice by the filmmaker is an evidence, somehow reveals what his inner agenda is to comment on class or comment on race or comment about xenophobia or comment about the murder mystery history and genre itself. So I love being able to just tackle things like that, and that's why I'm most excited to launch this new channel. Is it kind of frees me up to just to not follow the breaking news as aggressively and obsessively, and instead shift that obsession to just loving and appreciating one particular title.
Well, let's get right into it then. At the beginning of the new year, you announced that you'll be launching a new channel and platform under the new Rockstars brand called The Deep Dive, which is it'll officially launch on February 17th. Tell us about that. What can fans expect from it, and why now? Why did you decide this was the right time to do it?
I've been wanting to launch a new channel for quite some time, for years, but it didn't really start to crystallize until last summer. And I think it's born out of the fact that like New Rockstars has grown so much, and I really love how much we've grown. All the new hosts that we now have on our team, and the producers and the editors behind the scenes, and just the production staff, the operations staff. And I think we've gotten really, really efficient at digesting news, at breaking it down to just the essentials that you need to know, and the interesting, comprehensive details, finding all the Easter eggs in something. But I felt like there was something missing from my work that I used to be able to do in the earlier years of me working on this channel. And it's really just because I used to have more than one day to work on something. Now I have like half a day to make a video. So every video you see on the channel, I had to write in like, I don't know, no longer than a 4-hour chunk of time. Sometimes if it's like a big Marvel movie, I might have like a work day and a half to do it. But like just to keep everything coming out on schedule, and so that the editors can polish it to the degree that we have, I gotta limit myself. But I always have to like leave on the table like 40% of my research or something like that. And it's all like the really good stuff that just takes a long time to explain, but I think it's like the really, really good meat of like movie analysis. So I've been looking for a place to like explore all that and to use all that. And then so the conversation became, hey, why don't New Rockstars as a company has been trying to branch into a network for years, and I just presented this to them like, hey, why don't, in addition to me staying on the main New Rockstars channel doing what I'm doing, why don't we just treat me as the canary in the coal mine? I'll go out there and just try to like share this other indulgent analysis that like I've been wanting to include in the breakdowns for years and years. We'll do it on just like 1 or 2 videos a week. We'll just test it out and see how it goes. And so far, what we've worked on, I've now completed 3 of our first deep dives. These will all be on the channel on launch day. One is an analysis of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and just that video is literally the favorite video I've ever written and made in the 7 years that I've been doing this. Like just having like 2 days just to focus on it with the intensity I've been able to sharpen over the years of doing this, but being able to stretch that out over a 2-day time and just like be able to step away from it and come back and look at it again. Yeah, I mean, coming from someone who's written a few screenplays, you can't write a 90-page or 100-page screenplay in a day. You need a couple months to work on it. You need to relax your creative brain enough so that it can go back and look at it and realize, that day I spent writing yesterday was not useful. Like, I didn't get my best work, so let's rewrite it. So I've been able to apply a bit of that to this process, and I think it's really, really good. It's been really rewarding.
Well, I don't think February 17th is a coincidence for the launch day because there is a certain blockbuster movie debuting that day. But I know you have some things in the canon set to be published on launch day. Don't spoil anything, but give us a little taste of what fans can expect on launch day. What can they digest?
Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll have a deep dive of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was something that was requested again and again when we just kind of floated this idea to people, and it doesn't hurt that the movie's winning all these awards right now. To me, that is the best film of 2022, and I think it is the best multiverse movie to date. And the fact that it does have these kind of connections to the Marvel universe, which is like our main brand on the New Rockstars channel, with the Russo brothers being executive producers and Ki Huy Kwan has such a main role in it, and the fact that he's going to be in Loki season 2, and all these other just little details that it feels like it's the Daniels audition piece for Marvel. So it felt like an appropriate first choice. We have 2 other deep dives that I'll be revealing soon, but they're going to be focusing on familiar Marvel titles that I have talked about on the main channel before, but I'm going to be revisiting them with the new gained wisdom of experience. So I'm going to let go of some of the theorizing that I would have to do week to week before, and instead just appreciate
no more Mephisto.
Well, I can't promise that. In fact, it might be more Mephisto. We'll see. He creeps his way into the videos. I can't control it. He puppets me. He's like my Rakakuni. But The so we have those three videos. We have another format that right now I'm just calling investigations that are going to be sort of John Oliver investigations into specific trends that you see, media trends in the film industry, in the way the internet processes films, in the psychology of how we approach these things. We're going to explore questions like, are there actual smoking gun examples of when trailers have actively lied to viewers about what's in the movie? And now that a judge is allowing that Ana de Armas case to move forward, are there legal implications to studios lying to viewers and deleting scenes after a trailer comes out? We're going to look at things like, are there examples of how streamers, now that everything exists on streaming and it's harder to find physical copies of things, what does that say about what these movies are? If a studio or if George Lucas can go back endlessly to something they made and tweak it and refine it and change the meaning of it and change the context and the subtext of it. So what even are movies anymore if they're always just existing on streaming? What does it mean now that no genre story has an actual ending? They're just universes that are built to just exist and exist and exist and create spin-off series and tie-in series and crossover movies, because a critical part of a story is that it ends. But right now, no genre piece right now, no studio head wants to admit that the story is going to end. So I'm just going to dig into those questions. And the third format, and you mentioned this, of course, we didn't choose February 17th by accident. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is a very big deal to us because it is the launch of Marvel Phase 5. And we wanted to sync the deep dive, which it's funny, these posters are coming out with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, witness the beginning of a new dynasty. That's kind of how I feel a little bit with the deep dive, is I want everyone to kind of witness the launch of something new. We're going to be expanding into a multiverse of YouTube analysis with this channel. It's the goal of it. And it's not going to end with the deep dive in the New Rockstars Network. We have several ideas for new channels we want to spin off. This is just going to be the test case. So with that, you're going to see me doing more live breakdowns and live content because it's another big request that people have asked for me. They want to see what my process is behind the scenes when breaking news comes out or a trailer comes out. They say,
That's
"What are you doing?
fascinating.
What are you doing?" So I'm gonna give everyone a peek under the hood, and I'm gonna just start live streaming. I'm gonna share my screen and just kind of show people what I actually do when like an episode comes out or a trailer comes out or a movie comes out, and just kind of show people maybe. Disillusion them of the magic and just show that it's not genius that leads to what I do. It's just exhaustive research because I come from a journalism background. That's how I approach all these things.
Now, you've got so many things on your plate. As you just mentioned, you rattled off a whole list of them. But, at this moment, is there anything you'd like to accomplish in the future that you've always had set on your mind? Is there anything you said like, I would really love to do this, or I kind of want to get to this point? Is there any long-term goal that you've always had that you're still aiming for?
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, when I first moved out to Los Angeles, and for the first several years I was there, the goal was to be a staff writer or a screenwriter, and I've written quite a few screenplays, but I can't claim to be like a a produced screenwriter. I've like written sketches that I've gotten paid for, but I don't think that counts. Or I've produced some short films that have played at festivals. I've written screenplays that have like become finalists or I've won like a pitch contest for things, but like my goal is to have a screenplay that actually gets produced. I would love to have a film of mine get sold to a studio and actually be able to see it on a huge IMAX size screen. I've written maybe one or two movies that I think are still producible, but so far a lot of movies I've written, I've looked back at those scripts and I'm like, ooh, I would need to do a pretty serious rewrite of that. So at some point in the future, I've definitely stepped away from my screenwriting career. I used to write a screenplay a year. I've stepped away from that just because I'm not as interested in the hustle of it anymore. But if the stars align in the future and I'm able to like make some connections with people and pitch them on some ideas I have, I would love to produce a major motion picture. And who knows, maybe if it streams, I'm okay with that too. Because movies don't always play in movie theaters anymore, so I don't care where it plays.
That's the new age. Well, Erik, I can't say this enough, but I think you've developed a community full of film and TV fans that feel I wouldn't say feel welcomed, but feel a part of something, knowing that there are plenty of other people out there who feel just like they do about cinema. So I want to thank you for all of that. You can find Erik on all the new Rockstars platforms and on Twitter and Instagram at EA Voss. Thank you so much for the time today, Erik. I really appreciate it, and hope to speak again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. That was great.